Welcome back to the Momentum Sports Podcast. You ready to go over some of these week 4 scores, Derek, and game
Oh
recaps?
yeah. Oh yeah. So
Which one did you have in mind? Where should we start
we got
off?
the Nebraska Illinois game, 22 versus 24. This should be a smooth sailing game for Nebraska, and I didn't expect Illinois to do well. But you know what? Nebraska went toe to toe with Illinois. Um, you got to understand that it was close to get all the way through. Illinois had a forced fumble. No, it was Nebraska had a forced fumble
Mm-hmm.
where Nebraska started out strong. It was like actually no, Illinois was up three, and then Nebraska scored touchdown with 7-3. Or is it? I'm sorry, it's the other way around. I give you my facts wrong. It's the other way around. Either way, it ended up going like 10-10 because there was a fumble by Illinois caused by a strong safety at Nebraska. There was a interception end zone by Illinois. So you got to understand this is a defensive game. Now it was close game all the way through. Nebraska taking the lead in the first half, but Illinois caught back up. Now Nebraska eventually almost had a chance to take the win with the field goal,
Yeah.
but missed it, and it went into overtime, which led Illinois to kicking a field goal and Nebraska messing up and losing on fourth down because they weren't in field goal range.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That game was insane. To me, it felt like Nebraska had that game and lost it. It just kind of seemed
Mm.
like Illinois kept having to come back and respond. And this is also crazy and sad at the same time. Um, Nebraska has not beaten an AP ranked top 25 team since 2016.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not gonna help their case at all unless they win. They go unless they come back and somehow make a blowout in the Big Ten and win it all. That's the
yeah,
only way they're getting the playoffs. But I
yeah.
just don't see that.
25 consecutive losses, dude, in the top
Mhm.
25
Yeah, but it's not
matchups.
what's in the past. It's not what in the past. It's what you do
Yeah.
now. It's just like your excuse to Arkansas. When's the last time the Texas beat? Oh, they lost. Well, it's not what you did then. It's what you do now. And we'll find
hmm
out later on in that game. But we're talking about these other games. I don't think we're going to talk about Texas or Arkansas today. So, but we got our next. But we happen to get our next
Oh, we're
game going
talking about
here.
Arkansas today. They came off a big win over the weekend.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so we got OU and Tennessee. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was hoping. I was hoping for a big bold win by OU. I was like, I got a bold, but in my mind I knew that Tennessee was going to go strong and they're going to beat the
Yeah.
crap out of OU. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all.
No.
OU's defense was good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the scary defense. Tennessee's defense was good, but the only
Yeah.
thing is, Tennessee's offense was just slightly better.
Mm.
They did phenomenal against the OU defense because that quarterback was getting pressure left and right, and same with the OU quarterback. He was getting pressure left and right, but their defense were forcing like let me see look at my little stats here. Basically two turnovers by both teams. I think
Yeah.
OU had two fumbles. Tennessee had a fumble and an interception. So
And
you
they were
could
in
tell that
key
was a big.
situations too. Like it,
Mhm.
it, it
Yeah.
was not only were they fumbles, but they were fumbles like right where you did not want to fumble the ball. One of
Yeah, yeah.
OU's fumbles was on their own, inside their own 10, wasn't it?
Mhm. Oh, yeah, it was bad. But
Yeah.
that was probably the Achilles heels to that, game is that offense didn't strike. But you never know. OU had their first SEC game, right? So,
Yes, that was their first
basically,
SEC game.
if offense finally clicks, I could see them making the playoffs. Their defense is strong enough to do it, but once that offense is not clicking, they're not going to do it against the teams like Alabama,
L-
Texas,
Let's
or
pump the
Georgia.
brakes on OU a little bit. Let's see what happens in Auburn. I think that that's going to tell us a lot about who OU is. Um, because Tennessee, this was really their first challenge. And we don't really know
Mhm.
how good Tennessee is. It kind of looked like Tennessee kind of let off the gas at the end of this game, too.
Mhm.
We don't know a lot about some of these teams. OU, we went over this last week, is they have a really tough schedule. So, like, who they are comes against Auburn on the road. And then, they play other good teams as well. Like, Texas is right after Auburn. Ole Miss,
Mhm.
they're playing at Ole Miss. At Missouri. They play Bama, and then they go at LSU. So,
Yeah. I'm, yeah, I'm kind of
oh
curious how
man,
the OU I'm kind of curious how the OU defense does against
Into
Texas's
this first quarter.
big time receivers because that's going to be interesting. Now knowing that, I'm actually convinced that OU defense is really good. So we'll see how that works.
yeah, I
Uh,
think it is. I think it is,
uh,
but them not having offense is a problem too.
yeah, it's
So,
going to hurt them. But I don't see
and
Texas
yeah,
scoring like 50 points on them. So that's not happening. But I do see OU doesn't score enough points to win that game.
yeah,
But
we'll get there. Let's wait and see kind of what happens against Auburn, because that's again, we need to see OU win a conference game. We need to see OU,
mhm,
especially if they're going to Auburn. That is a place that you would kind of consider if you wanted to play anybody in the SEC right now. It would be Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State. Um, but still, like, going on the road, that's still a big deal, even if it is one of the lower tier SEC games or SEC teams. Still getting a win on the
mhm.
road is key. Now, if OU goes and, you know, falls to Auburn, if Auburn beats them, especially if Auburn, like, dominates them, like, say that Auburn wins by 2 scores, that's going to change our outlook on Tennessee, you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to just
Tennessee.
change everything. Like, these two teams, they could both be frauds for all we know. Like, we just don't really
Mhm.
know anything. Tennessee has been playing, nobodies, and you could say NC State. NC State is trash too. Clemson went over there and manhandled them. Or I guess
Mhm.
Clemson hosted. They didn't go to NC State, but they hosted NC State and just took care of business. So, um,
Yeah,
a lot going on.
yeah. I think we should move on to our next game.
You want to move on to the
Michigan.
next one?
So we have Michigan
Yeah.
and USC. Michigan 27, USC 24. You thought USC was going to win. I thought Michigan was going to win. And yeah, this game turned out a lot different than we both thought because the quarterback really
Yeah.
just did nothing. I mean, 32 yards passing. This is the backup quarterback they want to replace the starting quarterback because he didn't do anything. This doesn't look good for Michigan. Even though they beat USC, it still
Yeah.
doesn't look good. Now, Michigan was known to bring back a good run game. And unfortunately, they didn't do so well against Texas. And we thought, oh, maybe this is not as good running game as we thought. But apparently, at least to USC, we're seeing it is a better run game because the running game, I mean, I have 159 yards by Mullins. Edwards, who was supposed to be the guy that they were looking at to do something for Michigan, he only
Yeah.
has 74 yards, still pretty good, but he had 14 carries, 74 yards. Mullins has 17 carries, 159 yards, and Orgy, well, he had 43 yards rushing, so he really didn't do much, you
Yeah.
know. But USC, their quarterback, 283 yards passing, 28 for 51. So he threw a lot of tips. He was almost 50% passing. Their running back had 100 yards. Uh, but time possession was pretty even. I have 30 minutes and 42 seconds for USC, 29 minutes and 18 seconds for Michigan, and
Yeah.
both had 2 turnovers. So it was definitely a defensive battle. So that's probably why they didn't get that Michigan didn't get as much because it looks to me that they stopped them in key positions, key areas.
Yeah. Um, USC too. Man, I apologize to Michigan folks. I mean, I thought USC was going to run them over. Um, this game though makes me question a little bit USC. I'm still not convinced that Michigan is like a top 15 team. They may be a top 20 team, but I don't think they're top 15. Um, and I
Mm,
don't know if USC is either. USC's defense looked atrocious, and their offense looked to even struggle too. Like it just, for whatever reason, it does not seem like things are really clicking for Lincoln Riley at USC. He dominated the Big 12 in OU with OU. Um, but since going to the Pac-12 and now the Big 10, he just it just looks different. Like it doesn't look the same. And I want to see Michigan more, and maybe they're going to prove me wrong of being a little bit better of a squad than I think that they are. But to me, both USC and Michigan are just teams. Like they both kind of they don't really move the ball much for me.
Well,
What
here's the
what about for
thing.
you? Like where would you have them?
Well, I definitely think USC is still pretty good. I look at the stats, I still think they have the potential. You say their defense wasn't that great, but they still
No.
had two forced fumbles on Michigan, who were running pretty good. The only reason USC didn't have any interceptions because Orji was too scared to pass, and you know what? He was getting
Right.
disrupted.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
like
that
whenever
that says a lot.
if you let a team score 27 points on you that the quarterback has less than 40 yards passing, what 30 something yards passing, right? 37?
Yeah, it's like 32 yards passing.
32. Less than 35 yards passing.
Hmm.
That team that the quarterback had less than 32 yards passing scored 27 on you. I mean,
Yeah.
how how hard is it for me to, when I see that I'm like, "Oh, well then that means they're running the whole time. They're barely passing. Maybe we should prepare for the run." Like it
Hmm.
seems like it's a very one-dimensional thing, like kind of easy to prepare with. I like, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but that to me doesn't sound like a very dynamic offense that a defense should be having a lot of trouble against. Now I know Michigan, yes, they are a power running team, and last year a lot of their success came from running the football, and they did have times where they didn't pass very often. But it just, I don't know. I'm kind of waiting to see. I want to see kind of more games as like with a lot of these matchups. I just want to see more matchups and more scenarios. And I if you look at USC's schedule, um, Wisconsin will be interesting. I think that they'll probably roll those guys though. Penn State's going to be interesting. At Maryland is going to be interesting. At Washington, Nebraska, and then Notre Dame at the end of the year. Like I think that those are games that I don't think those are for sure wins for USC now.
Mm.
Like now that
Yeah,
I
Notre
saw,
Dame.
I could see them losing 4 or 5 games
Also, Notre Dame could be a possible if something goes wrong, could
for
really
sure.
screw up
Notre
Michigan.
Dame.
But that won't matter because if they win the Big Ten, then it really doesn't matter if they play Notre Dame with another loss or not another loss. But here's the thing: there are things that Michigan needs to work on. The
Yep.
quarterback was a backup. He's coming in. He's
Yep.
learning. I think he will get better. I mean, his run. He's very a mobile quarterback. So as long as he improves on that and improves on his passing game, I think that he can click if he works on it. I think he can click and do well because they got a good run game. You get that passing game going. Look at Texas. Texas got a great run and passing game. Look
Yep.
how well they're doing against teams. You do that, then you're going to be balanced and you're going to make it
Yeah.
harder for defensive to take you on. So they just need to work on that. And if you do that, I could see Ohio State being a rival game, being a close game if that happens.
That's
Now
a
with
good point.
USC, now with USC, their offense is good. Their defense, yeah, I think it's all right. But I think they need to work
Yeah.
a little bit more on their defense because there's no way they should have lost this game because the way the quarterback was playing. They should.
Mhm.
They're running, running, running. You know, the running backs getting the ball. Two running backs almost got another running back almost got over 100 yards. So you know they're running. All you have to do is stop them. It reminds me back when USC played Texas in the 2006 national championship. Vince Young was the runner. All you had to do is look for Vince, but somehow he got in and left to right and just just killed that team.
Yeah.
It just gives me flashbacks. Not as good as Ben John, don't get me wrong. That's literally considered the greatest national championships ever played. But uh, uh, but this is somewhat into that line, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, it should never been that way.
All
So
right.
so we got one last game that we need to talk about, and that
Two
is
more.
Oklahoma State and Utah.
Yeah.
Oh, two more. What's the other one? Oh,
Arkansas
no, yeah,
Auburn.
that's we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna take lead on that
Hey,
one.
dude, it's an SEC matchup. Uh,
Yeah. So we got Oklahoma State and Utah. Oklahoma
mhm.
State was ranked 14th, and Utah was ranked number 12. This game ended up being closer than it should have been. I really thought Oklahoma State could beat Utah, but Utah was a little bit better than I thought. I just thought I was like, "There's no way Oklahoma State's losing this game," but
Yep.
everybody knew that Utah was good. But
Mhm.
let's see here. The first quarter was 3-0. The second quarter, Oklahoma State was up 3-0. Great start. But in the second quarter, I think Utah might have
Yep.
they got a touchdown and then they got a field goal, ended up being like 10-3. And then they capped on that to make it 13-3. And then
Yep.
all of a sudden, OSU almost found a way back by scoring 16 points in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
You know, the time of possession for this game uh, you had 42 wow. 42 minutes. Utah had 42 minutes of time possession. How do you score 22 minutes and your team has 17 minutes of time possession? Oh, that's right. Utah had three turnovers, one fumble, and two interceptions, while OSU had two interceptions. This was a defensive game. They took advantage of on their defense, OSU
Yep.
kept Utah from scoring more points than they should. They should have scored a lot more. Utah has to work on that. But yeah, this is definitely a great game. But they are even on passing around 207, 206. Utah had a better rush than Oklahoma State with 182 yards by Bernard. Uh, so yeah, there's that. What do you think?
I was expecting. I took the home team, but I knew that Utah was going to be good, and I was just kind of. For me, I hadn't really seen a whole lot of them without Cam Rising, so I wanted
Mhm.
to see what that would look like. Just their quarterback play without Cam. And I
Yeah.
mean, they look good. They look solid. Obviously, Utah's got a great defense as well, so that always helps. So, um, yeah, I mean, it was interesting too to see. I thought that this game was packed up. I thought that Utah had won, and then next thing you know, Oklahoma State scores 16 points in the fourth quarter, and it's a 3-point game. So,
Yeah.
hats off to Oklahoma State for not, you know, giving up on the game and continuing to play all the way through. They made it a much closer game at the end and made it very interesting. But it does appear
Mhm.
that Utah is definitely the clear number one in the Big 12 right now.
Let me ask you this, speaking of Utah. Where did Cam Rising go before he went to Utah? What
Mm,
school did he go? Because he was at another university before he went to Utah. Do you
I
name
don't
that
know.
school? University of Texas. Guess what? Cam
Oh,
Rising
that's
couldn't do
right. I
anything at
knew that. Yeah,
University of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Texas.
yeah. I remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
he couldn't
yeah.
do it at the University of Texas. So he had to go to Utah. Ended up being really good. That's why we recruit the best. Texas, welcome. But
Mm.
anyway, that's it. So yeah, now but we want to talk about what it was Arkansas Auburn. So
Yeah.
what you got there from there?
Man,
So
that
yeah.
was an
Mhm,
interesting one because it was an interesting road game for Arkansas because they basically blew a game versus Oklahoma State where they showed that they're a legit team, but then they showed that they couldn't finish a game. So it'd be like, okay, what's going to happen in Auburn? Hugh Freeze drama, and Auburn is one of those situations right now where the fans are getting tired of waiting to, you know, get to that next step. They had some heartbreakers last year. Auburn did. Auburn almost beat Georgia, and then Auburn almost beat Alabama. And
mhm,
that shows what Auburn can do. But then again, in their other games, their regular games, outside of the big ones, the big matchups, they didn't perform very well. And so this was interesting for me to just kind of see what Arkansas would look like and what Auburn would look like, considering that both it was kind of a must-win situation for both programs. Sam being on the hot seat at Arkansas, and then Auburn, the Hugh Freeze situation of this is year 3, I believe, for Hugh Freeze. Is this year 3?
mhm.
I believe it's year
Yeah.
3. And just kind of seeing what Arkansas would do in the second half, and Arkansas outscored Auburn in the second half and in the fourth quarter, which was interesting to see. And Auburn just they host Oklahoma this weekend, and that is going to be
Mhm,
really interesting. We kind of talked about this earlier, but just
mhm,
the Auburn side of this, and then Arkansas at A&M next week as well. You just have some very interesting matchups in the SEC coming. To
mhm.
kind of get an
Yeah,
idea of what tier of an SEC program you are.
yeah. All right, let me get on this. So first of all, how many fingers am I holding up? So,
Sorry, I thought that you
so,
were
uh, so here's the thing. I'm looking at the game and I see Arkansas won 24-14. But here's the
right.
thing. Auburn had one receiver, 156 yards receiving. It was Lambert Smith, Keandrew Lambert Smith, 156 yards receiving. He averaged about
Mhm.
31.2 average on five receptions and two touchdowns. His quarterback only threw 213 yards. So he was literally concentrating on one receiver.
Right.
Arkansas, you cover hit that one receiver because he's doing all the damage. Do your job. It's going straight to him. He's getting 31.2 average. This is crazy. Five receptions, two
I think
touchdowns. You got to
so
stop that.
he was the one that scored that really long touchdown too. So he had a 67-yard pass on a fourth down play
Yeah,
that was just busted coverage. So that has a lot to
yeah,
do with it. It was just really one
yeah.
big play by Auburn. Um,
hmm
and
But
and
hmm
Taylor Green is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can go on. Sorry.
But yeah, you're speaking of Taylor Green, 80 yards, 18 carries, 22 long. And you're right. There was a 67 long by that receiver, but Arkansas also had a receiver did 58 long, but he only had 85 yards, three receptions.
Hmm.
The guy you kept throwing to only had 47 yards and five receptions, but you got one touchdown from your best receiver. I think your best receiver that game was the three reception, 85 yards because he opened up things. Now, the other receiver is going to get a lot of short games. What Andrew Armstrong, because his
Yeah.
longest was 18 and averaged 9.4.
Yeah,
Um,
he got hit pretty hard on a couple passes, and one of his targets was
mhm,
intercepted as well.
yeah.
But he had some
And,
clutch catches in third down situations.
Now let's look at the time of the session. This is where this is what won the game for y'all.
Hmm.
Okay, time of
It was the
session 36 minutes.
turnovers and
Oh
taking
yeah,
advantage of
36
the
minutes.
turnovers.
Yeah, you had 36 minutes of possession time. You had
Hmm.
compared to their 23. They had five turnovers, one fumble, and
Hmm.
four interceptions. Yeah,
Yep.
Auburn did horrible.
Yeah.
Let me go back to this. Let me go back to the stat. Four interceptions. I go back to the stats. I go back to box scores.
Yeah. Yeah. Go and look
Okay.
at where those interceptions were too. There were 3 interceptions in under 2 minutes of the first half.
Wow, man. Yeah, no wonder Auburn lost this game. 62.1 QBR. He was 13 for 22, so he didn't throw many. But then again, your quarterback was 12 for 27. But that's what it is. But y'all had two running backs that had 80 yards and 75 yards. Okay, uh, so y'all split that carries. He got breaks and rest, so that really helps for a team when you get all those breaks. But yeah,
Hmm.
Arkansas's time possession and turnovers probably did a lot to that. So y'all probably got short field. It looks like based on the offensive passing y'all had. But yeah, because what total offense was 334 yards for Arkansas, 431 yards by Auburn was the total offense. So yeah, y'all must have got a lot of good turnovers. Now I'm going to tell you this: that's not going to happen every game. Y'all play them
No.
again, that probably won't happen. So
Yeah.
Auburn would have been a lot closer game. So yeah,
Yeah.
that could have
Um.
been closer than it is.
Yeah. No. And that's what just really makes this game interesting is that Auburn technically had some better stats. It was really the turnovers, when they happened, where they happened, and Arkansas capitalized from it. And um, another thing is what's interesting about Taylor Green for Arkansas in this is that it looks like that he's kind of a rush first quarterback, and Auburn had a hard time dealing with his mobility. And I think that that's going to be really interesting moving into SEC play is seeing if Arkansas runs him more, that they have more of a running. And where Talon had 27 passes and only completed, I think, 12 of them. And that's not a very good percentage. It's about 44%, a little bit over that, a little over 44%. So I'm wondering if they kind of move him more towards 20 passes a game and then more rushing, attempts. Um, and then Auburn's quarterback situation. Ugh. good good
Hmm.
luck, guys. Like,
Yeah,
good luck.
I think
And
he just probably
OU's gonna not help you guys figure out who's gonna be your guy.
especially the OU defense. You do that against
Yeah,
OU defense, they're
yeah.
gonna yeah,
You
they're
think
gonna be crazy.
Arkansas's defense was crazy, forcing 5 turnovers? OU can probably do 7 or 8 for you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I think that these games coming up are going to be really interesting. Auburn and OU is going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm really excited to see what happens there because again, if Auburn loses that, they're going to be really getting irritated with the freeze situation. And then if OU loses, oh man,
Hmm.
Venables now because this is one
Um,
of your winnable games for OU on the
hmm.
schedule. So
Yeah.
But
So it's
we should probably move on to some other topics and other games before we turn this
yeah,
into. Alrighty, Derek, you ready to check out this playoff picture?
yeah. Let's get on with the playoffs here.
Okay.
We're talking about who's going where. You know, who's going to be a one spot? Who's going to be a two spot? Arkansas number one. Are they going to win it all? Yeah?
No.
No? No? Oh, yes. So I'll go over this. So we have a playoff and we got to decide who's going to be from 1 through 12. So obviously, I think Texas is one. I think because the top four seeds have to be the champions, the four champions,
Mm-hmm.
of the top four ranked rankings. So if, for example, if the Mountain West had a top, somebody ranked higher than the ACC champion, then the Mountain West would get that spot, and the ACC wouldn't. So they'll be part of the G5, and that's how it works. It has nothing to do with power or anything. It just has to do with who's highest seed based on the rankings of the highest champion seed we get in. But that's not going to happen.
Okay.
We have a clear picture. Probably it's going to be ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, and SEC. So in the first spot, I think SEC would get it, and I think that would be Texas. In the second spot, it would definitely be the Big Ten champion. So it would be Ohio State. And then in the third spot, and this is where I kind of see it different than most people. I actually think Utah gets number 3. Utah wins it all, but you never know. Kansas State might get it. Kansas State might win the Big 12, so they would be the fourth spot. For right now, I think Utah could actually go into the third spot. I think Utah could eventually pass up the ACC champ because they don't play a strong team. So I think Utah has proven themselves pretty good. I think they're close, but I really think Utah will get in because there's some hiccups that might happen with Miami, who I think will be the fourth seed.
Hmm.
If I pick the fifth seed, now this is coming to the part where the best consensus. So after you get those, you take those champions out and you go from rankings, the rest of the top rankings, and go from up and down. I think Georgia will face Texas in the SEC championship. I think Georgia will lose once to Texas, and they'll have one loss for like, in the SEC, and they'll go on to play Texas. Even though the SEC championship is in Georgia, I still don't think Georgia can win. I think that Texas team is too strong. So I have them at the number 5 seed.
You think
Um,
Texas is going to beat Georgia twice?
that's correct. I really do because there's no way they're being at home, and I believe they're going to be the 1 seed, so they
I'm going
have
to
to win the
stop you right
championship.
there. I'm going to stop you right there. Um, if Georgia loses this weekend to Alabama and has their back against the wall against Texas in Austin, there is 100% a possibility, or like there is a good possibility that Georgia is going to go into Austin and beat them. If Georgia's back is against the wall with one loss, Texas is in trouble in that game. Texas has a much better shot of beating a Georgia that's undefeated and maybe doesn't have quite, the back against the wall mentality. But if they come in with a loss from this Alabama game, um, it makes that game much more meaningful to Georgia and a much bigger deal. So I wouldn't be counting your chickens just yet, buddy.
Yeah, okay. You got a good point there, but we'll see what happens. So now we go to my sixth spot, and I think the way Tennessee showed up in that game and how well they did,
Yeah.
and you got other teams. I don't think they're going to be. They were my sixth seed. I don't think so. I think Ole Miss's power offense is going to be the sixth seed, and then followed by Oregon, then Tennessee,
Real
being
quick,
the
how many
eighth
how
seed.
many SEC teams do you have so far? You have Texas and then
Texas,
Georgia.
Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Yes, I made a point and I'm
Okay,
losing it. And
so
then
what happens then if Georgia has two losses to Alabama and Texas? I mean, I guess they would still get in, right? You can't keep Georgia out
yeah,
unless they lose a third, maybe.
yeah,
Okay. So you
yeah.
don't think Alabama's gonna get in?
Mm, I think
I know
Alabama will lose.
it's tough, man. Like this is tough because there's
Here's
a lot of
yeah.
SEC teams in there. Missouri may even be in that conversation.
This is where I say, okay, this is where I'm getting. I think at my eighth spot, it's Ole Miss. No, Tennessee at my eighth spot. I had Ole Miss at 6. I have
Hmm.
Oregon at 7. Tennessee at 8. I have Penn State at 9. I have Alabama at 11. I don't think Missouri makes it in. I think Michigan gets that last spot. I think Michigan finds a way to get that last spot. It makes it because five. What that's because they're claiming that one, two, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC teams are going to be in the playoffs. Uh, I'm working. I'm pushing with 5, but I don't see
Yeah,
6. I think they put Michigan in there over a 6 SEC team.
I I don't
I
think that some of those SEC teams will play three of those other SEC teams in there, which means that eventually one of those SEC teams within there is going to have three losses. Multiple ones will have three
mm,
losses.
and I could be wrong, but this is what I see right now. This is I might my thing might change along as we go, but this is what I see right now. And then Michigan, then we
Hmm.
got the G5, and we can talk about that and
And
further on about the
I just
G5.
want to confirm
But
this
what
real
is
quick. for the Big Ten, you have Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, right?
Yes.
Anybody else?
Oh
Oregon?
no, Oregon and Oregon.
Okay. I'm just writing that on my notes because I just want to see who you got. Okay, you can
So,
keep going.
well, here's the thing. We want to get to the G5 spot, but I want to get we want to get more in depth with G5. So let's just pick our first 11 because G5 has 5 undefeated teams right now, and we go more in depth in that. So I want to hear
Well,
your
well,
take on
have you picked a Big 12 team or teams?
Big 12 team. I think there's only one Big 12 team. I said that it would be Utah.
Utah. Okay.
Uh, yeah, I
Sorry,
think
I'm
they'll
just
be the
trying to
third
catch up
seed.
to some of this because I want to make sure this is all down for possible scenarios that could happen. Because
Yeah,
this
Utah
gets
third
really
seed.
interesting really fast.
Yeah, but I have Miami the fourth seed.
Got it.
Uh,
That's right. Yeah.
so that's 5-4. That's 9 spots. There's two spots left. That means only one
hmm
ACC, only one Big 12 team. I think Big Ten and SEC dominate the picking when it comes to the playoffs. Uh, but yeah, that's what my
You don't
conclusion
think
is.
Oklahoma State's going to get in,
No, no,
even if they win out?
they would out. It could be a chance, but they lost to Utah. They would have to beat Utah this time because they would end up playing Utah in the championship more likely.
If they win out, I don't know how you could keep them out. Um,
I think if they win out, I think Utah stays in. They obviously they would win the championship, so that they would get it would be fourth seed for them. But I also think Kansas State can win out too.
so
I also well,
Oklahoma State, they go to Kansas State this week. West Virginia, they go to BYU. BYU's interesting.
yeah.
Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, and they finish with Colorado. That's a very winnable schedule.
Well,
If they
Kansas
can,
State's still strong.
yeah, if they
That
can
game
get
between
past, well, if they can get past Kansas State and BYU, they're in really good shape. Um,
mm, mm, but yeah, I think if
okay,
you look at it, it could come down to
so
Oklahoma
you're only
State and
putting
Utah
one.
in.
That's
Well,
interesting.
it could be Oklahoma State, Utah in,
Hell, BYU
but
maybe
then
even get in. BYU, aren't they
yeah,
undefeated right now?
yeah. But here's the thing: I believe if Utah wins the Big 12 championship, there's only one team. But if Utah loses the Big 12 championship and either Kansas State or Oklahoma State win, there will be
Yeah.
two Big 12 teams. That means Michigan will get knocked out, and one of them will get
So,
in.
what about this scenario? Oklahoma State beats BYU. BYU wins out. And you have three one-loss teams in the Big 12.
Well, there's only two teams. I think if you're not in the championship game in that
Or BYU,
conference,
do they?
you're not.
BYU might play. Actually, they may play Utah. They play Utah, so that couldn't happen. But um, that'll be interesting because if you have like kind of, mm, man, it just gets
Mhm.
interesting.
But it's only two teams because if you're not in the championship game, you're not in. You're not
Really,
at least
I just
guaranteed.
don't. You don't think two would get it? So you're putting four Big Ten teams in, and you
Yeah.
don't think that two Big 12 teams? What's so special about
Well,
Penn State
here,
and Michigan?
well, Penn State is it's the strength of
Penn
schedule is going
State
to get them
barely
in.
escaped Bowling Green.
I still think they're in. I still think they're in. I mean, Michigan didn't look so strong. I still think they're in. But I do believe if Utah doesn't win the championship, there
Hmm.
will be two Big 12 teams in the playoffs. Michigan will be out. That will bring it down to three Big 10 teams uh,
Okay.
playoffs. Five in from the SEC. That's eight. Two from the Big 12's nine, 10, and then one from the ACC. That would be 11.
Okay. So you're not confident in Missouri or LSU on getting in.
You get
Those
them.
are kind of
You
like
get them.
those are your teams looking in from the SEC, but just didn't make it.
It don't make it. I mean, there's other, as you can see, there's other experts that we can't name that
Hmm.
say pretty much what I say, almost.
Hmm. Um, I don't think 4 Big 10 teams get in, but I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
list all of mine yet. I want to do that more as we get closer. But I'll kind of say that I do think that I think 5 SEC teams get in. 4 at a minimum, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think 5 could sneak in there. I have a hard time seeing 4 Big 10 teams in. I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah.
The Big Ten to me just doesn't really look that good, and I could see Penn State slipping in a couple of these games. They have to go to Illinois, and they
Mm-hmm.
go to USC. They go to Ohio State. They go to Minnesota. So like some of those games, I don't. I mean, if they win all those, sure. But Michigan too, like Michigan, I just don't. I don't know how Michigan gets in. Let's see. Let's look at their
Mm-hmm.
schedule. They have to go to Illinois. They have to go to Washington. They play Oregon. They go to Indiana. Then they finished against Ohio State. From what I've seen out of Michigan, now if you win those games, you deserve to be in. But I don't see them winning. I can see them with 3, maybe 4 losses. And 3 losses, your Michigan team's not getting in with 3 losses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so G5, what were you thinking?
Well, I can tell you this: there's only five undefeated teams. Damn you.
Do you think two
Is
G5 could
undefeated.
get in? Or do you think it's
No,
only
it's
going to be one?
it's only going to be one. It's not going to
Okay.
happen. They don't have enough big wins to make it in, even if they're
Yeah.
undefeated. 'Cause
Could there
Boise
be a
State lost.
possibility of 2 G5s being undefeated?
There could be. That's where it'll get interesting. It's basically who is a better ranked team. That's where the
That's
controversy
so
comes
messed up.
in. Because that's where the controversy comes in. They're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm undefeated," and
I
give it time.
yeah.
There could be 16 teams in the playoffs. But here's the thing: we already know Northern Illinois is finally out. You know,
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
not.
there's no
Yeah,
shot. Yeah.
yeah. There's no shot. Um,
Well, it's crazy.
teams
Notre
are.
Dame is still like a favorite in there to get in. So
Yeah,
that's
they
really
have a
interesting.
they do have a shot to get in Notre Dame. But here's the thing: we're going to G5. We're going to talk about G5. You got Navy, Army, Liberty, UNLV, and you
Hmm.
got JMU. JMU is in the Sun
UNLV just
Belt.
lost their quarterback though.
Yeah. So that might be bad for UNLV, especially they got to
It
play
will
Boise
be.
State. They got to
Yeah.
play Boise State in the Mountain West.
Hmm.
You got Navy, Army in the American. Navy and Army don't play until after the American Championship is over, and that game doesn't even count. But technically, if they both win out, and Navy has a chance to win out now because they beat the powerhouse Memphis team
You know
this
who we're
week,
forgetting about? Sorry, go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
but Navy Army, they have a chance of playing 2 weeks in a row. That means they'll play in the
Mm,
American Championship because they don't play in the season unless they always play that Navy Army game. That's not part of the schedule. They already picked the bowl games by the time they play. Uh, so they'll be able to play again. The second one will be it's supposed to be the decision of the Commander in Chief trophy. That's like their little national championship right there. But this would be interesting that one of those military schools get in. I mean, they both. I think Army plays. I'm not sure. I think Army plays Notre Dame too, but if they don't, Navy definitely plays Notre Dame. And
Navy would be
there have been
interesting.
times there would be times where
I
Navy gives
mm,
Notre Dame a hard time with that triple option. And after watching that quarterback he's a brand new starting quarterback. He is a mobile quarterback. He can pass, and they're well known for that triple option. This is a dangerous team. He scored like 6 touchdowns against Memphis. Six
Yeah.
touchdowns. That's
W-
insane. Uh,
We'll see.
but
Yeah.
UNLV has played Boise. Liberty has nobody. I'm sorry, if Liberty comes down undefeated and there's one of these other teams undefeated, Liberty doesn't get in. Liberty has a hope. Everybody else lose. JMU has to play Texas State. They're not playing the schedule. Texas
Mm.
State's still a pretty dominant team in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
It could very well be JMU and Texas State in the American Championship. But then
Mhm.
again, JMU did score 70 points in North Carolina, but they
Isn't
didn't
that
look so
wild?
shabby against. They didn't look so shabby against the non-known teams. I mean, so I think they really got lucky because they don't have the same quarterback. Because guess where that quarterback's at? Yeah, he's at Texas State. He left JMU. So
Hmm.
James Madison. So that'd be interesting to see Texas State and JMU in the championship. Where they watch all those JMU fans boo that quarterback. Oh, it's gonna be a fun game if that happens. But I think that would come down to it. If
Yeah.
JMU wins,
Okay.
if they can beat their original quarterback who knows their schemes, I think that that'd be a big win factor. But UNLV has played Boise State. If they beat Boise State and wouldn't go on to win the Mountain West, that could be a factor. Liberty's not going to be a factor.
If
Nor
Boise
Navy,
State wins out, are they in?
they have to no, they have to hope that Navy Army loses. They have to hope that JMU loses. They have to hope that UNLV will lose if they beat them. And Liberty's the only team that they could probably jump. I just don't see it strong enough. Because if Navy it goes undefeated, they beat Notre Dame. That's a big
Hmm.
signature win. Who did you beat, Boise State? Oh, you barely you came close against Oregon, but you didn't beat Notre Dame. You didn't beat Oregon. And Notre Dame's
Mhm.
is kind of wishy-washy. They played great, so we'll see how well they do. But yeah, I think I really want to see Navy go in there. The playoffs, that'd be great because it's hard to play in military schools because they got the triple option. The QB, all they have to do is hand off to the running fullback. Doesn't like it, he can do an option and all of a sudden toss it to the running back. He sees it clean. He got a good hole. He can run it, or they got that fourth option because their passing's doing pretty good, and that's usually not a strength of a military school like Navy. And he can back up and pass it to somebody too as well. So
All
that could
right.
actually happen too.
I see you're big on Navy, aren't you?
Oh yeah, my friend was part of Navy, dude. I mean, I
Mhm.
got my parents were both Marines. My cousin was a Marine. My grandpa was a Marine. You know what? I have my Texas are my teams. But
Mhm.
if I had to pick another school, it would be Navy because of family history.
All right. Well, hey, I'll be rooting for him. I'm not against it. I think it'd be pretty cool. Um, you know
Hmm.
who we're kind of forgetting here? It's not a G5 team, but I
Hmm.
feel like that we should have this conversation, and that's Clemson.
Clemson?
They play
Clemson?
a decent
Yeah.
enough, easy enough schedule, if that makes sense. That if they win
Hmm.
out, and I'm trying to look at their schedule here because I had it.
They
Here we
beat the
go.
They beat, yeah.
Yeah, so their biggest games, they only have one ranked opponent left on their schedule, and that's
Hmm.
Louisville. And we have
Hmm.
no idea how good Louisville is. So
Hmm.
if they don't have to play Miami. Now, here is the other thing that we have to remember is there's conference championship games, and just because you have one loss in the regular season, you could lose in your conference championship game. So in this situation, Clemson could go to the conference championship game and then get their second loss there. So a conference
Hmm.
championship game could be an eliminator game for some of these conferences, like the Big 12, for example. If you
Hmm.
have a two team or a two loss team there, they're going to get eliminated.
Hmm. Well, the two loss team,
And then
champion
if they
out of the Big
win, a
Ten.
2-loss team wins, you put them in. And hell, even if a 3-loss team wins a conference championship game, maybe that's enough to put them in.
Nope. Nope. This is where the G5 comes in because if there's a G5 undefeated or a G5 undefeated and there's a three-loss
Yeah.
team that wins the Big 12 championship, guess what?
Well,
It's
they
that the G5 champion gets in plus
right,
plus another G5. Well, actually, the other G5 might go back. Ooh, it
right.
depends how it works. But
No,
yeah.
no, no. I agree with you. I know that that has to happen, but what I'm saying is that maybe a 3-loss conference championship team can get over a 2-loss Notre Dame, or maybe
Mhm.
even a 1-loss Notre Dame, depending on who it is. Like, say it's in the SEC, like maybe. Well, no, there's not going to be a 3-loss SEC team in the in the
No, no.
conference championship, but maybe in the Big Ten. Maybe the Big Ten. There's the 3-loss team versus Ohio State. Like maybe it's
Yeah.
a 3-loss Penn State team that beats Ohio State in the conference championship or something like that, or Oregon, a 3-loss Oregon team that plays them.
Here's a crazy thing. Is if one of those G5s, the group of fives, let's say a three-loss Big 12 team wins the championship
Yeah,
and G5 is undefeated, do you
yeah.
see that Big 12 championship being ranked higher than the G5? Guess what? And I think I'm not sure about the rules, but I think
hmm
that the G5 conference becomes one of the Power Fours because they're one of the top four champions, and
That
then
yeah, that
that
would be
Big 10
interesting.
and then that Big 12 team is now a G5, and that Big 12 team wouldn't get the 12th seed. That's how it
Hmm.
would work. I don't think there's another team unless even you might not even see a Big 12 team in. Well, Utah would be in if they
No, yeah, you're
lost.
you're you're getting in a Big 12 team.
Yeah,
I
you'll get
don't
one, but
know if you get two. You definitely don't get three in, but you might get two. Um,
yeah,
the SEC one,
but
and that one's the weird one. The SEC and the Big Ten, it's going to be them and everybody else, and
mhm,
I'm just not that convinced with the Big Ten. I mean, Ohio State, I think, is legit. Michigan had to cheat to win the whole thing. Um, Penn State never wins the big games. Like in the SEC, all you can list a whole bunch of teams that have won championships in the 2000 era. Um,
yeah,
you can't do that in the Big Ten. All you have is Ohio State and Michigan.
yeah. Well, but I think if you had to pick one G5 to get the spot, which one would it be? After all this discussion, who do you think?
Mm, either James Madison and I like your case for Navy. I think Navy
Mhm,
is a really interesting one, and that would be really cool to see. Like if Navy goes and beats Notre Dame and gets into the college football playoff, that would be so cool. It wouldn't last very long, unfortunately, probably. But it would just be cool for them to make an appearance. And you know what? If they knock somebody out early, that'd be pretty cool. Um, it
mhm. It's
out
hard.
yeah. So those are my two. Yeah, those are my two. I
Mhm,
think JMU or Navy. UNLV, that there's too much controversy going on over there. Their quarterback is sitting out because of what appears to be NIL problems, um, which, in my opinion, is kind of an understandable situation. But we're not going to get too much into that until more details come out. But um, yeah, I think that that's going to cut them off. And UNLV also kind of at the end of the season, they always come up just short. So I wouldn't have picked them
mhm,
either. What will be really interesting is if you have two. So if you have a
yeah.
JMU and or a Navy, or do they play each other? They don't play each other, right? JMU and Navy. That I just want to make sure.
No, they don't.
Okay. Um, that would be really crazy. Or like what you were saying with Liberty, if Liberty is, I mean, there's so many scenarios, and that's why I don't want to put like too much on this, even though we've talked about it for a long time, and I don't want to make a list yet, is because there's so many things that can happen. um, with all of these teams. I mean, hell, Tennessee could go on a big losing streak, and then all of a sudden they're frauds. Ole Miss could be frauds. I don't think they are. I don't think Tennessee is either. I don't think Alabama is, but Alabama's got a tough schedule. Like if they lose to Georgia, what happens? What happens if Georgia loses to Bama? Um,
Mhm.
because Georgia has an interesting schedule. If we look at Georgia's schedule real quick, let's see here. Georgia, they play obviously they play Alabama.
Okay.
Then they play Auburn. They play Auburn. Well, that's at home, so that might be
Wait.
interesting.
Is it Alabama then Texas?
Uh, No, they play Texas. They play Texas after they play Mississippi State. So Georgia plays at Alabama this weekend. Then they come back home to play Auburn, and again, like this Auburn team shows up to play in those games. Um, Georgia kind of escaped Auburn last year, and if Auburn comes off some momentum beating OU, I don't know if it happens, but like maybe this is just one of those weird games that Auburn comes in and shocks Georgia. Like if they're not paying attention, then Georgia goes to Texas. They host Florida easy, but then they go to Ole Miss and then they host Tennessee. So,
Mm-hmm.
like Georgia could be in the 2 or 3 loss column. Especially if this weekend doesn't go well. So let's say that they lose to Alabama. That's one. Now they have two more top 10 or two more top 5 matchups, two more top or and then an additional top 10 matchup. So they would play Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That.
a lot of things can happen. They can really throw a monkey wrench in this whole playoff. And then here's the thing too: would you put a 3-loss Georgia team in the playoff? I would have a hard time saying no to that.
I
Especially
mean,
if your
it's
losses are to
possible.
top 5 teams.
Yeah, it's possible that might happen. But I don't see a Texas getting in with 3 loss. But then again, we have 5 teams getting in, so you never know. It might
Yeah,
happen.
there's just a lot that can happen. I think that the G5's not going to run into a situation where somebody that they don't try to let him in or something. I think that they're going to get in there pretty easily, and then it's it's going to be really interesting how many SEC teams get in. And then the Big Ten as well. I guess I could see 3 Big Ten teams. Again, I still find it hard to believe that 4 are going to get in from what I've seen. Um, but hey, I've been wrong about like I've been dogging Michigan, and they showed me that they have more than what I thought of them. So maybe they get in. Clemson could surprise some people. The ACC could maybe get 2 in there randomly. We could have some sneakers. It's weird. Or Miami goes into the ACC championship with no losses. Clemson comes in with 1. Clemson beats them. You have 2 1-loss ACC teams. You can't keep Miami out of the playoff with just 1
Yeah,
loss. So,
it's true.
and then scenarios of the Big 12, there could be a weird scenario where 2 of the teams in the Big 12 championship get in. Um,
Hmm. Well,
so
this is why, as we go on, my my
man, it's
my playoff
we
picture,
could go on and
my
on and
playoff
on about this.
my playoff picture is going to change. I know it will, but
Yep,
as of right now, this is what I see.
yep,
But it can change. It's very possible, but that's what I see. So we'll
yep.
see what happens. All
All
right.
right, all right. So let's move on to Week 5 matchups, Derek. What do you got? Which game are we starting on?
I guess we can start on the Ole Miss Kentucky game. We can just see what's going on there, man. Because here's the thing: Kentucky looks sharp. It looked sharp on defense against Georgia. Their run game's great. But you know what? That power offense by Ole Miss, the passing
Mm-hmm.
game is just going to dominate Kentucky, and that run is not going to keep up. They have a great run. I think Kentucky has a really good run team, but that's all they got. They can't pass, so all they're going to
Yep.
do is just stack the middle on Kentucky and just play that way all day. Well, Ole Miss can actually do short, long passes, and once in a while run too. to change things up, and that's something Kentucky can't do. I mean,
Mhm.
I understand Ole Miss is a 17.5 point favorite, but I
Yep.
see Ole Miss winning by 24.
Yeah, I see something similar, but like I think that's what's going to happen. What you just said, I think that's probably more likely to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if, for whatever reason, Kentucky comes out swinging and Ole Miss looks to be struggling. Kentucky is capable of putting together a defense that can give Ole Miss some fits, but then at the same time, it's just as like it's more likely that Ole Miss is just going to roll over them because they just have more talent. It's one of those games that I just kind of want to see. I want to make sure that Ole Miss takes care of business, you know? Um,
Hmm.
because I'm curious. This is going to be the first real defense that Ole Miss is going to face. So I'm just kind of
Yeah.
curious, are they going to roll like they're supposed to? But yeah, I agree with you. I see it about 20 something points, maybe even more. Um, you know, I mean, anything could happen in this. I wouldn't really be surprised with a lot of different outcomes. I'm just curious to see which one actually happens.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's continue on. What game do you want to look at now?
Okay.
What's
Uh,
your pick?
all right. I'll look at the Oklahoma State. Let's look at the Oklahoma State Kansas State game. Um,
Good pick. Yeah.
yeah, Kansas
So,
State BYU made them look really bad. Um,
mhm.
I don't know how accurate that is. I sometimes just there's a bad matchup. You just and they a team will look worse than they really are. Both of
Mhm.
these teams need to rebound, so that will be interesting. I I
Yeah.
gotta say Oklahoma State um, on this one. I normally would take
Yeah.
the home team, but Kansas State looked really bad against BYU. Oklahoma State had some fight in them at the end of their game that made me see that this team doesn't quit until
Yeah.
the game is over, and because of that, I think Oklahoma State is going to finish this game on top.
Yeah.
I don't know how by how
Well,
much.
well,
I just think that they're going to win.
yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about your take, and I agree with you at some point. You know, Oklahoma State, I really think will beat Kansas State. I see the 4.5 spread against Kansas State, but I don't see it if it was playing Oklahoma State. But now
Hmm.
I see the 4.5 against Kansas State. I would actually take the under on that. I would actually do the plus 4.5 because I think it'll be a lot closer game. I think
Mm.
definitely not going to be Kansas State's not going to score over 5 points. Not happen. But I do think Kansas State does take the win because they got the home crowd in Manhattan, and when you're at Manhattan, you're on that turf. The crowd's roaring. Oklahoma
Yeah.
State has to deal with that noise, and they got to do something about it. And I think Kansas State goes on top 3-3 against
Okay.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got the Oklahoma State money line, and then you were also saying that you like plus points Oklahoma State or plus points Oklahoma State. That's right. And then you
yeah.
like the under as well.
Yeah,
Under
I think it's
54 and a half.
yeah, I think it'd be under. I could be
Okay.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like me with USC, huh?
Mhm. Now you
Yeah.
said BYU did something against Kansas State. Let's talk about
Hmm.
them. They're playing Baylor.
They're
They're
going
ranked
to
number
Baylor.
22. Now Kansas State's 23, Oklahoma's 20, but BYU's undefeated. They're at 22. That was a shock seeing them beat Kansas State. I did not see that happening.
Yeah.
But but they're playing Baylor,
Hmm.
the Baylor team that lost to Texas State last year. Okay, I don't see
Yeah.
BYU losing that game. I it, they,
I don't
uh,
either.
uh, but I don't understand. I know they're in Waco. I know they're in Waco. 3.5 point spread. I just don't see it. I see BYU winning. I do believe I see it over on that 45.5 point spread. 45 and a half points, total points, I do see the over. I think BYU scores a lot more points than Baylor.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm probably saying 30-17 is what I'm seeing, somewhere around that
Okay.
range.
Um, I don't know about specific scores. Sometimes it's hard to do that, but I'm just gonna say that I agree with you 100% that BYU is gonna win this game, and I think that they may win by a good amount. I could see them winning
Mhm.
by 2 scores. I don't know why Baylor's, here we're gonna jinx them, but I don't just looking at this. I don't know why Baylor's favored. I guess it's just because they're at home. The way they collapsed against Colorado told me a lot about that team. And yeah, I think BYU comes in and takes care of business. So
Yeah.
money line. I don't know by how
Hmm.
much. I could see it happening by 2 scores. I could see it by 1 score, but I think that BYU just comes in and they're going to win that football game.
Yeah. All right. What do you think of that USC Wisconsin game? You think USC beats Wisconsin? You think USC is
Yes.
strong as they should be? All right. Why?
Wisconsin is
Why do you
just
think that?
missing. They're missing some parts. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think their quarterback is going to be back in this one, is he?
Yeah, I don't see it. But you said in the beginning they were deciding on both with quarterbacks, so you know, um, I mean clearly the backup won because the starting quarterback got injured, and that was a shame because I really wanted to see Alabama, Wisconsin with that quarterback, and it didn't turn out that way. We'll never know how that game would have really ended. I mean, I
Yeah, it
think
says
Alabama
that he
would
has a
have,
torn ACL,
yeah,
so
yeah.
he's out.
I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think Alabama would eventually won that game still.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Wisconsin,
I agree. Yeah.
but with USC, I do see it happening. They didn't show up well against Michigan, but Michigan is not Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not Michigan, and I see USC winning against Wisconsin for the
Yeah.
15.5 point spread. I think it's just slightly under that. I think they win by 14, 2 touchdowns. Um, yeah, that's what I'm going on.
Yeah, that's a
What's
lot
your
of
take on this?
points. Um,
Mhm,
let's see here. So Wisconsin had a bye, it looks like,
mhm.
over this weekend. That's interesting. Um, God, I didn't want to say this, but I'm going to say it. I think Wisconsin's going to beat the spread. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if they have enough to win because I think USC is looking for vengeance from last week. They really need a
Yeah.
win. They're going to come back swinging, and Wisconsin's going to pull a classic Wisconsin as they're in the game in the fourth quarter, and they're going to lose it. So, but I think it's going to be closer. I do think that I think they have a chance, a more than likely chance to beat the spread. So
Yeah.
at first glance, I didn't think so, but now the more that I'm looking at it and I see that buy in there, um, I think that they have a better chance than people might think.
Mhm. Yeah. No, speaking of a matchup, they had to put it on the stupid
Hmm.
Peacock channel. I mean, not everybody has Peacock. I'm gonna have to watch this on those one of those YouTube clips where they cut off key moments, but they try to get the whole clip in. That's how I'm gonna be able to watch this game. But it's Notre Dame, Louisville, 16 versus 15 at Notre
Hmm.
Dame. This is a fun game. This shows how well ACC is, how well Louisville really is. Because
Yep.
if Louisville loses this game, and then they
Hmm.
go on to beat Miami,
Yep.
how really good is
Is the
Miami?
AC,
You
the
know,
ACC too.
yeah, and because Florida State, they're nowhere near. I knew they were going to be that great. You know,
Right.
that court. And I'll say this again and again and again. Florida State head coach getting fired this year. I don't care. I don't care what he did last year. He's getting
Hmm.
fired. But Notre Dame, Louisville. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about Florida State. We're not talking about Miami. We're talking about Notre
No.
Dame, Louisville, and there's a 6.5 point favorite Notre Dame because they're at home. It makes a lot of sense. Crowd's going to be loud. You might actually see what's his name from the movie uh, uh, Wedding Crashers. What's his name? He's a big Notre Dame fan. He was on Rudy. He was one of the Notre Dame players on Rudy. He's a big Notre Dame fan. I can't think of his name. He's a movie star, but he's probably going to be there. He's probably going to be on the grounds with his field pass going crazy, against Louisville. But I do see Notre Dame winning that game. I think Notre
Okay.
Dame's stronger. So when Notre Dame goes on to play Navy, and I think a week or 2 weeks from now, or so, I'm not sure exactly what happened, and Navy pulls off a win against Notre Dame after they beat number 15 Louisville,
Yeah.
it's going to be big for Navy. Navy's going to boost up in the rankings because of that. They actually got one receiving vote in the AP polls right now. So
Okay.
yeah, I see it happening.
So you're taking Notre Dame.
Yes, I am.
Okay. This this is an interesting. Do you think they beat the spread?
Um, I think once them beat the spread, I don't see it happening. But if they do, it makes Navy's case a little bit better if they win.
Yeah. Okay. This game is really interesting because if Louisville does win, Notre Dame's out of the playoff picture for good, pretty much. I don't think that
Mhm.
Notre Dame can get in with two losses. Um,
Yeah.
that so there will still be a slightly cracked door open for Notre Dame if they lose this game, but this pretty much you know pushes you out if you lose this game. So and then also if Louisville wins this game, that could also set up two ACC teams to get in potentially. Um,
Hmm.
maybe even three. Sorry, not four, three. But it could definitely push two ACC teams in, which would be very interesting. So, do I think it happens? Do I think that Louisville pushes Notre Dame out and also adds another ACC team to the conversation? No.
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 I want to be.
Um.
I know it could be proven wrong, so you never know. That quarterback is pretty hot. I mean, at
Yeah.
850 yards,
Easy now, Derek. Don't be calling other
he's
quarterbacks hot now. Just kidding.
hey, we've
Uh, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't think that Louisville's gonna do it. I think Notre Dame again. I think they have their back against the wall. They cannot lose this game, and they know it. And after that disaster performance in front of their crowd, um, let's see, who did they play last week again? I'm blanking. Um, okay, so they did have another game at home since then. Okay, I was gonna say their last game was the disaster against Northern Illinois, but still, I think that they wanna show that crowd that they're sorry for that loss against Northern Illinois, and I think they come out swinging. And I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame beats the spread. But this could also be a really ugly game. Notre Dame's offense is atrocious at times. So
mm,
we'll just
well
we'll
they
just have to see. But yeah. What?
well after this game they have a bye week, so they're off next week, and then they come back in Stanford. And I was
Yeah.
wrong. It'll be 4 weeks from now. They'll play Navy, and that's marked on my calendar. Love to see a midshipman go in there and beat Notre Dame. So yeah.
Hmm.
So our next game that we should talk about. I mean OU's defense against Auburn. What do you think? What do you think about that game? They're a
Man,
two and
dude,
a
this
half
one
point spread.
this one will say so if Auburn wins this game, that will be there's going to be a lot of speculation going around of how good is Tennessee. If Auburn
Hmm.
wins this game, there's going to be a bunch of controversy in the ACC or in the SEC. So can they do it?
Yeah.
um, dude, I don't know what it is. I feel like Auburn's gonna win this game. It's really weird. My gut is saying Auburn's gonna win this game. I have a feeling that Auburn's really pissed, and Hugh Freeze is getting it. And he is saying crazy stuff in the media right now. He's throwing players under the bus. He's saying that he would beat Arkansas the next 9-10 or the next 9 times if they played him again. He's making just weird comments out there. He's trying to rile up his fan base to say, hey, enough is enough. We need to come out and this team, they have some problems, but I don't know what he's trying to say. It's really weird. He's like saying we'll beat Arkansas 9 out of the 9 or 9 more times if we played him, but he's saying that he can't find a quarterback that won't throw a pick. But I do think that, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's something about what's going on in Auburn that screams upset alert. And
Mhm.
OU is probably really beat up from that game against Tennessee. They lost in front of their crowd, and now they have to go on the road to Auburn. I think that Auburn is going to get their home crowd again because this is going to be a big game, so it's going to draw a crowd. And it Auburn was rocking against Arkansas. If they can have that crowd rocking against OU and get just a little bit of offense going, and Hugh Freeze can do it. They're really weird. Auburn will have these big plays randomly. They can do it. Their defense should be good enough to hold Oklahoma's offense. I see an upset here. I'm taking the War Eagles. I'm going War Eagle
All
on this
right.
one, and I see an upset here.
Okay. I get your point. OU does not great at quarterback like Auburn has their quarterback. They have more passing yards than his quarterback, Auburn. They got more rushing yards, Auburn. They got more
Mm-hmm.
receiving yards for their receiver, Auburn. Well, that's great. I mean, they're leading all those three categories against Oklahoma. But you know what?
I know what
You
you're gonna
know what?
say. I know what you're gonna say.
California. California. Auburn lost to Cal. I know Oklahoma struggled against Houston, but they didn't lose to Houston. Cal beat Auburn. And you know what? They also lost another game. I can't go back that far to see what happened there. But all I know is Arkansas. That's right. They lost to Arkansas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is actually a pretty good team. I really do think they're really good. I think they have potential to make the playoffs if they do things right. But I believe
Wait,
Oklahoma's
what?
defense. No,
Really?
I believe Arkansas does have a chance to make the playoffs. I really do think they have a
Oh.
good team. They just need to capitalize on their wins. If they
Well,
don't
I
capitalize on wins,
appreciate it. I just was
yeah.
not expecting that. I thought that you were being sarcastic or something. I was like,
No,
what?
no, no, I'm not. I'm being 100% true on that. But I
Hmm.
think
Okay.
Auburn has all those, but that key loss and Oklahoma's only loss is against Tennessee. You know, who they actually gave Tennessee a hard time on offense that should have scored a lot more points. Auburn is not going to be able to handle that Oklahoma defense. That defense is going to be it's going to be what keeps Oklahoma in this game. They're going to be the one that intercepts uh, the quarterback for Auburn. They're going to be the one that forces a
Yeah,
fumble.
the
Uh,
two
uh,
quarterbacks for Auburn that will be in the game.
yeah, they're going to force a fumble on that running back or the
Yep.
quarterback. You never know.
Yep.
I see they're too strong. I think they're going to get good possession. I think Auburn leads in total yards, but I think the defense comes out strong for Oklahoma. I think the 2 point spread is perfect. I think Oklahoma wins by three.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not mad at that pick.
Mhm.
I get it. There's just I just have a feeling I think Auburn is going to be rocking, and I think they're going to take care of business. Regardless, I think it's going to be a really good game, and it's going to tell a lot about both teams. But
Mhm.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Speaking of, speaking of, guess who's playing? at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M, Arkansas. Arkansas goes to Arlington, home of the Cowboys, baby. How about them Cowboys? They suck this year, by the way. Suck. It's early. We'll never know. But
Mm-hmm.
my point is, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Texas A&M's number 24. Arkansas is not ranked, but they both have losses. Arkansas lost to Oklahoma State. That should have been their game. They should be undefeated right now. They should be
Mm-hmm.
strong. They should be ranked. They should be ranked higher than Texas A&M. They're playing better than Texas A&M. You're leading in all the categories, just like Auburn's leading all the categories of Oklahoma. But the difference is Texas A&M doesn't have a strong defense as Oklahoma. Arkansas actually has a team that can do well. Yes, your quarterback, they might say he's like the VY. Well, guess what? No one's Vince Young, buddy. No one's Vince Young. I'm sorry. Green is not Vince Young. If he was Vince Young, he would have found a way to win against Oklahoma State, but he
I
didn't.
agree.
That's why. Okay. Uh, uh, but I see Texas A&M losing to Arkansas. I do see them. Well, obviously the -4 is going to be a +4 Arkansas, so I see that winning. I see it being a high scoring game. I see the over on the 52.5. That's my take. So what's your take?
So for me as an Arkansas fan that's trying to stay neutral in these picks and, just
Last
seeing
time you
everything.
stood neutral. No, 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 no. Last time you stood neutral and you didn't go with your team won. So you know what? Go against your team. It seems to work that way.
With this game, A&M has beaten Arkansas in so many heartbreaking endings where Arkansas has been up in the second half of so many games that I've seen and does not finish. I really wanted to see Arkansas in a one-score finish and Auburn winning. Instead, Arkansas won by 2 scores. I have not seen this team close a one-score victory yet. They had a chance against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State beat them in a one-score, which would be a loss to Arkansas. So a one-score loss to Arkansas against Oklahoma State. I think this is going to be a one-score game, or at least that it's very likely to. And until I see Arkansas win a one-score game, if I have the feeling it's going to be a one-score game finish, I'm taking the other team. So unfortunately, I've got to take A&M in this one. A&M seems to be able to finish this game every time, whether it's Arkansas hits a field goal at the top of the upright to win the game and loses. They dive for dive for the end zone and fumble it on a 100-yard recovery by A&M, scoop and score. Um, Arkansas is up by 10 in third quarter, and then we have a holding nowhere near the play, completely changes the momentum. I have seen it all. I've seen overtimes go A&M's way. A&M in this building, whatever it is at the end of the game, they always are able to close it out. So until I see it, I agreed with what you said. I think Arkansas is a more complete team. I've watched A&M. I've watched Arkansas. I think Taylon Green and Reed for A&M, the quarterback of A&M. Reed, I think, is very similar to Taylon Green. I think Taylon Green is a little bit better just because of experience, and I think that Taylon Green is a more bigger threat on the run. I think he's more dynamic on the run. I think Reed can throw a little bit better. And I think that Arkansas's defense overall is better. I think there's parts of A&M's defense that's better, but overall, I think Arkansas does have a better defense, and I think that the Arkansas's offense is much more dynamic than it's going to be too dynamic for A&M's defense to handle, and I think that Arkansas should be able to prepare for A&M's boring offense. Um,
Mhm.
Arkansas should win. What I'm saying is Arkansas should win this game. I think they're a better team. The problem is, will Arkansas win the game? They just don't close out this game against A&M. So again, I've got to say until I see it, I'm going to take the Aggies in this one, and it really sucks to say it. But hey, like you said, maybe me picking against my team is the way to go on this. Maybe they like proving me wrong. So
Yep.
I got to I
Okay.
got to take the Aggies, but I'm going to take them by 3. So I've got Arkansas plus 4, but not Arkansas money line.
No, 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 no. Here's your point. You're over. I like your take, but my point is you want to see a close game. This is college football. We're not in the NFL. If you're going to play a team like Texas A&M, you want to shoot them out. You want to make them look bad. You want to beat every team you face and knock them out and smash their mouth
Yeah.
in. That's what you want to do. I think Arkansas should do that. It creates motivation leading on to the next game. The next game. Guess what? If they smash mouth on number 24 Texas A&M, how much confidence boost is that going to give them compared to, oh, we barely
So
won,
I'll say
to a
this to
24
that.
team?
I'll say this to that. I think Arkansas has a 2-score lead at near the beginning or around halftime ish. I think that they get ahead by 2 scores. My concern is keeping it. I just don't.
Well,
What it's weird in these games. It was 2 years ago that they were up 14-0 and they were about to go up 21-0. And KJ Jefferson dove for the end zone, fumbled the football at the half yard line. A&M scooped and scored for a touchdown, and now it's 14-7 instead of 21-0. And then A&M
yeah.
won that game with Arkansas missing a field goal at the end of the game that hit the top of the upright post when they were down by 2. That's just the luck
All
that
right.
Arkansas has in that arena. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that we will be up by 2, or Arkansas will be up by 2 scores at some point in that game. It's just a matter of keeping that. So
Yeah. All right. All right.
all right. But yeah, I've got
Okay.
plus 4 Arkansas. You've got money line Arkansas.
Take this real quick. Do you really think Michigan State has a chance against Ohio State?
No.
No. So we're just gonna put it as this. Ohio State dominates Michigan State by
Yeah.
more than minus 24. It's done. We don't even need to
Yep.
talk about
Done.
that game. Their defense
No.
just
Wrap
brought
it
off
up.
the shot. That's what we're wrapping up on that one. We got Clemson. We got Stanford. 2-1 Clemson. 2-1
Clemson. Wrap
Stanford.
it up. Clemson. Wrap it up.
Yeah, Clemson. You got Iowa State, Houston. Really? Really?
Yeah. Iowa
Iowa
State.
State,
Wrap it up.
Houston? Now we get to the real game.
Okay.
Georgia and Alabama. Number 2 versus number 4 in
Can I
Tuscaloosa.
start out with this one? Can I start out with this
Go
one?
ahead. Take
All
it
right.
away.
Okay. So last year, um, I started watching a lot of Washington games and started hyping up Penix, hyping up just the coach of Washington. A lot of people gave me flack for that for a while, saying they were overrated, they weren't very good. I thought that with what Washington had and what DeBoer was able to do with that team was incredible. He has beaten Coach Sarkisian twice now in a row. Beat him the year before, and he beat him in the playoff. He's a really good coach, and when Saban left, one of my 2 picks for Alabama to pick up a coach were Kiffin, as most people thought. The other one was DeBoer. And when they got DeBoer, I was shocked that people still were sleeping on Bama and not picking them to be very good in the SEC. Nobody's talking about Alabama in the SEC championship. It's Georgia and Texas. I think that Alabama at home with Kalen DeBoer, they win this football game. I'm taking Alabama in this. And I think this is going to be a wake-up call for Georgia. And this is going to make that Georgia-Texas game really, really interesting. So I'm taking DeBoer on this one. Alabama's got a long road ahead, and this is just the beginning. They have to win this one at home. Their back is against the wall. They take this one home with a victory.
All right. All right. You're good with that. Uh, there is this one guy called Milroy who seems
Milrow?
to,
You
yeah,
talking about Milrow?
Milroy.
Milrow.
Milrow. Okay. He did great against Georgia in the championship. I mean, that was a performance of a lifetime for him. They got his team in the playoffs. They almost beat Michigan, who went on to win the championship.
Yep.
I mean, Yeah, but guess who has salt in their mouth now? Guess who didn't make the playoffs because of Alabama, because of Milroy? Milroy, I don't care how you
Milrow.
pronounce it.
Milrow.
Milrow.
It's all
Guess
good.
who's salty? Georgia is.
I get
Georgia's
it.
salty. They want to beat them down at their own house and shut them up like Texas did. That's what they want to do. And you know what? I don't think they're going to shut them up like Texas did last year, but I do think they're going to win. I think Carson Beck, who is the better quarterback, I think he's going to go in there. He's going to show what's up. He's going to wash that Kentucky game behind, and he's going to smash mouth Alabama left and right. I don't see one interception by Alabama. I see Carson Beck playing a perfect game
By Georgia.
that
Are you saying
but
you don't think Georgia's not going to throw an interception? Is what you're saying, right?
yeah, I say Georgia's not throwing. Beck is the quarterback for Georgia. I'm
Yeah.
saying Beck will not throw an interception. Now, if they give a running back and the running back passes and throws the interception, yeah, that could happen. But I don't see Beck throwing an interception. And
Okay.
there will be there's going to be trick plays like that. I really see a toss to the running back, pass to Beck. I see that happening because this is the type of game where you throw all your tricks and treats out. And yeah, they won't throw them all out because they want to see something Texas, but they're going to definitely do it with Alabama because they got salt in their mouth. They want to punch that mouth into Alabama and win that game.
All
They want
right.
revenge. That's why Georgia wins this game, and they
Yep.
win it by 7.
Okay. Okay. So they're beating the spread, and then I got Alabama money line. I mean, I could see
Mhm.
your point makes sense. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to see. Because this is a big game for Georgia, like you said too. I just think that it's
Mhm.
slightly bigger for Alabama because of the road that they have ahead. And we went over a little bit of their schedule. If Alabama drops this, they're in pretty big they're in big trouble. So the
Alright.
same thing with Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia may be in trouble too. I guess it means something to both. I'm just going to take the home team. If this was at Georgia, I would take
Mm.
Georgia. But I think DeBoer prepares for those boys, and he gives Stoops a call and say, "Hey, how did you prevent them from scoring? How'd you keep them under 20 points? What'd you do?" So
Alright.
anyway,
Let's talk about the Penn State Illinois game. Okay.
yep,
You said
we'll end on this
Penn
one.
State's weak. You said Penn State's weak. There's no way they're going to get in the playoffs, this and that. They're playing number 19 Illinois, who's undefeated. Yeah. What
At
is your
home.
talk? You talk about Penn State. Now prove it.
Hmm.
Go ahead and take it. Go ahead and take it, Ross.
Well,
Take
I'll
this
I'll
game.
say this. I don't consider Illinois a huge win. I'll say that it's a nice win, but that's not a win that I'd be like, trying to secure a playoff spot and say, "Hey, I look, we beat Illinois at home."
Hmm.
It just it this is a game you should win. If you're a playoff contender, you should 100% win this. I mean, the line is 19. I'm not sure. That does seem like a little high of a line. I don't think it's going to be that bad. Illinois is not bad, but this is a game that Penn State should win. So for me, I'm going to take plus 19 Illinois, but I do think that Penn State will win this game. It will be interesting how much they win by, but if they do lose this game, uh, do not put these boys in the playoff. So
Hmm.
that's my
Yeah.
take on this.
Okay. I'll let you know what my take is. Didn't we talk about Illinois going into Nebraska and beating them?
Did we
Did
talk
we?
about
I thought.
Nebraska's
Yeah.
record against top 25 teams?
Yeah, well, I understand, but did you see the defense that was going on with Illinois? How well their defense is? Yeah, they beat Kansas, who's not so hot as they were number 19. They beat
Yeah.
Kansas. Kansas not that hot, but I think they learned. They went to Central Michigan. They got a 39 win. They got some motivation in them. Then they went to well, they were home with that game. Then they went to Nebraska. You
Hmm.
know, beating that game 31-24. Their defense is the reason why they won that game.
Yep.
It's not their
100%.
offense, it's their defense. I
Yep.
think their defense puts a fight against Penn State. But I believe Penn State does win this game. And I
Mhm.
don't think the 19 points is justified. I think it's a lot lower game. I think it's a lot closer game because I think Illinois is actually a contender to be a
Don't say it.
pretty good
Don't say it.
a pretty good Big Ten team that can that can ruin people's playoffs hopes in
Okay,
this Big Ten.
okay.
I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs.
I know. I was like, don't
I think,
say it.
I think they're playoff busters. I think they're going
Okay.
bust team, but I don't see them doing it to Penn State. I think they put them down in a pedigree. But Illinois strength, they'll lose to Penn State, but they'll only lose by 7. I think that's a 7 point loss. I think Penn State wins by 7. Uh, but yeah, that's my take on that one. Penn State goes
Okay.
on to win it by 7. That's how I see it.
All right.
But
I can
yeah,
see that happening.
oh
So we
yeah,
both have Illinois beating the spread.
hmm that's correct.
All right.
So we got okay. Here's the interesting thing.
Mhm.
Washington State plays Boise State. They're undefeated. Washington State has to make a big move because they're not
Ooh, this is a good matchup. Yeah.
their conference doesn't qualify for a G5 position
Mhm.
because they have to have I think what was the rule you have to have like 8 teams in their conference to qualify for a G5 spot or the top 4 conference spot. They don't. So they have to go with the consensus. So they have to start winning. I think
Yeah.
being Boise State gets them on the path. Boise State is 7.5 point spread. Boise State did play a good game against Oregon, so they're going to be a pretty tough team.
Yeah.
But Washington State, they beat Portland State. So who the hell Portland State is 70-30. They beat Tech 37-16. They beat Washington 24-19. And they beat this one hurts them. San Jose State 54-52. So they got to do something against Boise State. And that San Jose State game says a lot right there. And I don't see them winning against Boise State. Well, if they can go in there
Yeah.
and beat Boise State, not just beat them, but beat them convincingly, and
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, this doesn't happen. I think they got a shot to actually put a voice out there
Mhm.
because they still got teams like for one Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii's
Mhm.
2-2. All right, you're thinking why Hawaii? What's wrong? What the hell you talking about Hawaii? Okay. Hawaii is a motivation one. It gets a lot of points. You beat the crap out of Hawaii, you get your motivation, your team, and you're doing well. It continues that trend to beat the snot of every other team, and
Mhm.
even Oregon State. You beat Oregon State, who got beat up by Oregon. Now it puts you in the picture like, okay, maybe the playoff committee might want to put a one defeated Washington team in the playoffs and have
No.
one Pac-12 team in the
No.
consensus. I see it happening. I do see it happening. If you punch these teams and you win by 40 respectfully, you beat Boise State by 30, you start clicking, it can happen. Do I see that happening? No. I do see Boise State winning the game, and their all hopes runs out when they play Boise State and Washington loses one, and that kills their playoff hopes.
Okay. I think that Washington State is going to lose this one and they're going to lose a couple more. I think Boise beats the spread. I'm not going to spend too much time on this just because I mean just looking at what Washington State has done and the road ahead.
Mhm.
I mean that San Jose State win. Oof. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not good. Um yeah, that's not a team that's going to travel to Boise State and beat them. So, I'm going to take Boise State to win this game, beat the
yeah.
spread, and Washington's going to
All
lose a
right,
couple more.
all right. Okay, we
But that was
got
an
two quick
interesting
ones.
theory. That was an interesting theory. I mean, we like the hypotheticals on this show. We like the
Oh yeah, yeah.
hypotheticals.
All right, here's some quick ones.
Hmm.
Utah, Arizona. I got Utah. There's no way he's
Okay,
going to win. I think
Utah,
they're win-win miles.
move it.
Yeah, Oregon, UCLA. I see
Oregon.
Oregon, yeah, dominating against UCLA. Okay, now here's a question. Texas might be playing Mississippi State, but
Oh,
we're not
this is interesting. I was like, I thought we skipped that one, but we're coming back for the end, huh?
yeah. Texas State. I mean, okay, Texas is going to beat Mississippi State. They have
The
a 39
the
point spread,
score is
but that's
39.
not.
Yeah, the spread is 39.
That's not what I'm trying to say. Texas is going to beat Mississippi State. We are all become agreement that Texas will beat Mississippi State. There's no
Yeah,
way Mississippi State's coming in this win. Okay,
yeah,
they're at Texas. It's not happy. The big
yeah.
question is, does Arch Manning play or Ewers play? That's the question. Because as of right now, as we're filming this, we do not know if Ewers is playing. We do not know if Arch Manning plays because the coach Steve Sarkisian said that it depends how Urs plays during practice and how he goes about because Urs thinks he's ready, but the coach doesn't see that. He wants to see how he plays. This was statement was like made on Monday. Okay,
Mhm.
so how he progresses, I see Urs coming in.
So,
I
is
think
there a QB battle there if yours is healthy?
no, I don't see it because the way Arch Manning played in the last game, he
Hmm.
did give up 2 interceptions. But you know what? His whole family, besides Eli Manning, didn't do good in their first game. Okay, look at them. Look at their future. They did well.
Hmm.
But I'm not going to take that first start game in any consideration. But I think it's a good thing to get him motivated and playing. But I think if Sarkisian wants Ewers to get back in game shape again. He should play this Mississippi State game, and especially
Mm.
if he's like 90% healthy, 95% healthy. I think he should play this game. I think he should get warm up because he'll have a whole week off after this to rest. Because 95% and you have a whole week off, you should be 100% by the time the game comes. Because you're going to make him out 3 weeks and he's going to be rested coming in Oklahoma. I just don't see that happening. I think he plays against Mississippi State. That way he got a game on his belt, he gets that week break, and he goes into Oklahoma. That's what I think.
All right.
So what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? You think the same thing?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, Mississippi State is not very good. I want to.
Hmm.
I'm gonna wait until Texas plays OU, Georgia. Maybe even going to
Hmm.
Vanderbilt might be interesting. But
Yeah, not
I'm gonna wait
not
until
happening.
OU in Georgia to really start talking Texas. So next
Hmm.
week, going into next week, I'll do more of a deep dive on my thoughts on Texas, my expectations for them
They
moving
don't play.
forward.
Well, I mean, they don't play next week, so it
Oh,
might be.
then
Yeah,
before the Oklahoma game,
yeah.
I
So yeah, okay.
again, I just don't really see Michigan as being that big. I mean, it told us something. It told us that Texas can dominate teams that they should, but I want to see more than that. I'm done with talking about Michigan and Texas. Like we've talked a good amount about that, so I'm ready to see Texas play a legit opponent. So yeah, that's where
They
I'm
did.
at.
They played Michigan. They played Michigan. That's it.
I know.
They
I'm talking
won.
about another one.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm
Oh yeah.
tired of talking about that one. I want to see a different matchup for them, and
But
they've just been
but
playing
but they
nobodies
played the most legit.
since
They
then.
placed the most legitimate team over Georgia. Georgia played Clemson, who was you know,
Georgia also played
and
Kentucky.
the Kentucky, who they should have never gotten that close.
Yeah,
I
but
know they've gotten close.
right. But what I'm saying is that Georgia had more interesting games to talk about. Texas had one good game to talk about, and outside of that, they've played nobodies. So it's the same thing of like
Yeah.
sitting here and talking about like Tennessee or Ole Miss when Tennessee has one good game under their belt and Ole Miss has none. So
Hmm.
let's wait until I want to see them go and beat OU and then be like, okay, this is where I think Texas is at. Or if they lose to OU, then I'll be like, whoa, this changes everything. And then if they lose to
Yep.
Georgia after that, wow, we've really changed things. So, um,
Which
yeah,
is not happening.
let's wait
All
and see
right.
what happens with Texas in a couple weeks.
All right. Let's ring that bell. What do you guys say?
All right. Guys, if you got this far, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, let us know in the comments if our takes are trash, especially that guy over there trying to ring the notification bell for you. Um, it lets you know that our videos come out. And if you enjoyed these takes by this Razorback and that Longhorn over there, please show us love by liking the video and continue following our content. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.